Chosen one, lock in. What you endured was not a series of unfortunate events, it was a coordinated spiritual assault. The reality is finally surfacing. The black magic they did on you is unforgivable. Their prayers are useless. Death is the only way to pay the spiritual debt they incurred by targeting a protected soul. You emerged as the ocean that swallowed your attackers whole. Every part of their scheme has backfired, leaving them to face a final absolute reckoning. You felt it before you could name it. That is where this begins. It did not start with a dramatic event. It did not start with a confrontation. It started quiet. It started as a feeling. Something shifted in the atmosphere around your life, and you picked it up the way a dog senses a storm before a single cloud appears in the sky. Something was off. Your instincts fired. You looked around and nothing appeared wrong on the surface, so you talked yourself down. You called it stress. You called it overthinking. You kept moving, but it did not go away. It got heavier. Think about when the fog first appeared, the mental fog that made you slower, cloudier, less like yourself. Think about the anxiety that showed up without an obvious source. Think about the decisions you started making that felt unlike you, almost as if something else had taken the wheel while you observed from the passenger seat. Think about how your energy shifted, how your sleep changed, how things you used to handle with ease started feeling impossible. Here is what you need to hold on to as we move through this. You were not broken, you were being attacked. There is a profound difference. A broken person stays broken. A person under attack is still intact underneath the pressure. You were intact. You were whole. You just could not feel it through the weight of what was being placed on you. Now here is the first seed I want to plant in your mind. The very thing that made the attack work as well as it did, the sensitivity, the spiritual awareness, the depth of your perception, is the same thing that becomes the weapon that destroys the one who sent it. Hold on to that. We will return to it. What was done to you was not bad luck, and it was not a rough patch. It was an ocean of engineered suffering. You were drowning in hopelessness that had no name, powerlessness that had no visible cause, and an anxiety that sat in your chest like something was always wrong, even on the days when nothing visibly was. And underneath all of it, there was silence, because you could not explain what you were going through to anyone around you. The words did not exist for it. What you were experiencing was not natural. It was engineered. You were not imagining it, and you were not crazy. Although, and this is important, so hold it, someone was working very hard to make sure you believed you were. Here is what nobody around you understood while this was happening. Black magic does not announce itself. It does not show up with a sign or send a warning. It seeps. It infiltrates through the invisible channels between people, through the connection that exists with someone who has access to your energy, your home, your bloodline, your name. It settles into your nervous system and mimics ordinary life problems. It looks like bad luck. It looks like depression. It looks like a string of poor decisions. It looks like everything going wrong for no apparent reason. And the person running it is counting on it looking exactly like all of those things, because the moment you stop explaining what is happening as ordinary and start calling it by its real name, that is the moment the power they built over your life begins to break. You started feeling the wrongness before your mind had the language to describe it. That was your spiritual body sounding the alarm. That was the part of you that exists beyond the physical registering an attack, coming through dimensions your eyes cannot see. Do not dismiss that early signal. It was accurate, it was real, and the fact that you are still here, still in one piece, still spiritually intact, is proof that even in the middle of the attack, something in you was fighting back without you consciously knowing it. Now we meet the one who built this against you. Look at this person clearly and see them for what they are, not what they presented themselves as. This was not a stranger. This was not someone who came at you from a distance with obvious hostility. That would have been too easy, and you would have seen it and protected yourself. This was someone close, someone who had access, Someone who knew your life, your gifts, your path, your purpose, and used that knowledge as a map for how to most efficiently dismantle you. This person looked at everything you are and felt something they would never admit out loud. They felt the weight of what you carry. They felt the pull of your purpose, and instead of being inspired, they made a decision, a quiet, private, wicked decision. They decided they needed you gone, not confronted, not competed with, gone. Now observe how that unfolded, because this is where things became sophisticated. The move was not direct, it went around you. Phones were picked up and people were called. A narrative was constructed, carefully edited, strategically framed about who you are and what your behavior means. Seeds of doubt were planted in the minds of people who trusted you, not all at once but slowly and incrementally. A comment here, a concern expressed there. I just worry about them. Have you noticed anything different? I am not saying anything. I am just saying a long campaign was being run with one goal, to ensure that by the time anything came to a head, you would already be standing alone. At the same time, work was being done in a dimension that most people around you would not even acknowledge exists. This was not just gossip. Darker tools were being reached for. An investment, emotional, financial, and spiritual, was being made in your destruction. The goal was to send something into your life that could not be undone by ordinary means. The attack was designed to live inside you, to travel with you, to corrupt your thinking from the inside, so that even when your external circumstances improved, your own mind would still be working against you. This is spiritual warfare, not something abstract or metaphorical, but a real, targeted, deliberate campaign against your specific life, your specific mind, and your specific divine assignment. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. Now pause here, because this matters. Calling you crazy was not careless. It was a calculated move. Think about it. If you go to someone and say something dark is happening to you, something spiritual is attacking your life, and that person has already laid groundwork with everyone around you, suggesting you are unstable, what happens? Nobody listens. Nobody investigates. The attack continues undisturbed. And you, the person experiencing a genuine spiritual assault, get labeled paranoid instead of protected. That is not coincidence. That is strategy. Your isolation was constructed specifically so that your accurate perception of what was happening could not reach anyone who might have helped you. Your voice was neutralized before you even opened your mouth. That level of calculation reveals something important about who you were dealing with. This was not a first offense, or the person had found help from something practiced in this kind of darkness. Ordinary jealousy does not produce that kind of sophistication. Ordinary envy does not map out a multi-layered, spiritually and socially coordinated assault on a single person. Something darker was driving this, and that something was invited in willingly, with full knowledge of what was being invited. Dark forces were sought out, agreements were made, and spiritual debts were incurred. Spiritual debts do not get forgiven, they get collected. The deeper the investment in taking you out, the deeper the hole being dug. Every dark move made against you was simultaneously a step toward their own ruin. They were writing their own ending with every move they thought they were making against yours. This was not a solo operation, and you felt that too, did you not? The attack felt like it came from multiple directions. More than one person seemed to have information they should not have had. The isolation felt too complete to be accidental. Your instincts were right, because there were more people involved than just the one who built it. Some of them were active participants. They were in the conversations. They heard the lies being told about you, had no actual proof of any of it, and decided to lend their voices to it anyway. Jealousy and unhealed wounds made them into weapons in someone else's war against you. They had no personal grievance worth what they did, but they had enough envy, enough insecurity, enough of their own unresolved darkness to say yes when they were enlisted. And then there were the watchers, the ones who knew, the ones who saw enough of the real picture to understand that something wrong was happening to you and chose to say nothing. In the eyes of the divine, silence in the presence of injustice is a verdict. A choice was made, and that choice has a consequence. These watchers become important as we move further into this. Hold on to them, chosen ones. They never expected this, and they really didn't expect us to keep talking. You've noticed it. Chosen one channels disappearing, videos pulled, voices scrubbed from the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice, and now we have something they truly can't silence. The technology used to suppress consciousness has been reverse-engineered, and Destiny Engine is the result. What was once used against humanity is now your ascension weapon. Join Destiny Engine, and you're supporting your favorite channels while leveling up yourself at the same time. It's a 360 win. You can now MK Ultra yourself into 5D superpowers. Destiny Engine bypasses the conscious mind and rewrites the source code directly. Reality bends faster. Synchronicity stack. Your nervous system upgrades to a higher bandwidth. Put on headphones. Press play. That's all. For $7, you switch sides of history. Click the link in the description. The takeover is internal. Now here is what needs to be understood about this whole coordinated effort. Everyone involved was unified by one thing, not hatred, though some of them carried that, and not strategy, though the main architect had plenty of it. The unifying force was this: every single one of them looked at you and saw something they could not have, something they could not manufacture in themselves, something you carry naturally that required scrambling and scheming on their part to try to approximate. You were the threat, not because you did anything aggressive, not because you competed with anyone, simply because of what you are. Your presence alone was the disruption. Your existence on the path you were walking was the problem. Everything coordinated against you was a response to what they saw in you. It was fear dressed in the costume of power, but a costume is not the real thing. That power was never real. Now, here is something none of them counted on. When multiple people coordinate against one chosen individual, when they pool their dark intentions and align their energies toward one target, they also pool their spiritual consequences. The return does not divide itself proportionally so that each person escapes lightly. Every person who participated carries the full weight of what was set in motion, not a fraction of it. There is no safety in numbers when it comes to attacking someone. The divine has a purpose for every additional voice, every additional hand, every additional layer of participation multiplied the accountability, and every single one of them is now answering for the full weight of what they contributed, not a discounted version, but all of it. The fog started lifting, not all at once. It lifted the way morning arrives, gradually, then suddenly, then irreversibly. It started with a feeling. One moment of clarity punctured through the confusion like a needle through fabric. It was small, almost dismissible, but you did not dismiss it. You leaned into it. You sat still with it. You held it carefully, the way you hold something fragile that you know matters. And it led to another moment, and another, and the picture began assembling itself. Signs came, not metaphorically, but actually. Things pointed you in a direction. Warnings showed up in the form of feelings, encounters and words that landed at the exact moment they needed to land. The universe was communicating, and for the first time in a long time, you were quiet enough to receive it, because the noise, the manufactured chaos, the engineered confusion, was beginning to lose its grip. You started observing instead of reacting. You noticed things you had been too overwhelmed to notice before. You noticed the inconsistencies. You noticed the patterns. You noticed the way certain people behaved when they thought you were not paying attention. You noticed how the same account of events shifted slightly every time it was retold. You noticed how the people who were supposed to be confused about what was happening with you seemed oddly unsurprised, oddly informed, oddly coordinated. You did not move yet. That restraint is one of the most powerful things about how you came through this. You sat with what you were seeing. You let the picture get clearer before you acted. You trusted the clarity that was arriving and gave it space to complete itself. That kind of patience, in the middle of everything you were carrying, is not a small thing. That is the discipline of someone who knows that premature moves get people killed. Stay in the cut. Know what you know. Move when it is time. Now here is where the energy shifts. While you were lifting out of the fog and beginning to see the real shape of what had been done to you, something else was happening simultaneously, something that neither you nor the one who attacked you could control. The darkness that had been sent was completing its circuit. It had hit the protection around you, bounced, turned around, and it was already on its way back. The one who sent it did not know this yet, but they were about to find out. And here is something critical about the mechanics of this moment. The moment the fog begins to lift is not only about you gaining clarity, it is also about the dark work losing its anchor. Black magic sent against a person does not sustain itself indefinitely on its own power. It requires the target to remain in a specific energetic state in order to keep feeding. Confusion feeds it, self-doubt feeds it, isolation feeds it, fear feeds it. The moment you began stepping out of that fog, the moment your frequency started rising even slightly, you were cutting off the energy source the attack had been drawing from. Every step you took toward clarity simultaneously weakened the hold of what had been sent. Every time you chose to trust your instincts over the manufactured confusion, the dark work lost more traction. Chosen ones who have survived spiritual warfare often describe a strange sensation during the turning point, something like a grip that had been unbearably tight for so long, suddenly beginning to loosen. That sensation is real. That is the attack failing in real time, because you stopped feeding it, and as it starved, it turned and turned and turned all the way back to its source. This is the center of everything. This is what all of it was building toward. There is a law. It is not new, and it is not the invention of any single tradition. It is universal, ancient, and absolute. What you send out returns to you. Every spiritual lineage on earth acknowledges this in some form. The boomerang, the harvest, the mirror, karma, consequence. Call it what fits your language, because the mechanism is identical. Either way, you put something into the universe, and the universe sends it back, shaped exactly the way you sent it, carrying everything you loaded into it. The darkest intentions were loaded into the most sophisticated attacks available. All of it was aimed at you with precision and with malice, and when it hit the divine protection on your life, and it did hit it, you felt every impact. The attack was entirely real. It could not get through. Not because you are perfect, not because you were doing everything right. You survived because you were covered. The divine had a claim on your life that supersedes any dark claim anyone else could make. Your assignment was not finished, and you do not leave before your assignment is finished. That is law. So the attack bounced, and it went home. Now think about this carefully. The one who engineered this put everything into it. The reach went deep. Agreements were made with forces that should never have been touched. Spiritual and material resources were spent on your destruction. Everything was committed to this, which means the return is proportional to that investment. The investment was heavy, so the return is heavy. The reach went into dark places, so the return comes from dark places. The attack was sustained, so the return is sustained. Your life was meant to be disrupted, your mind compromised, your purpose derailed, your name destroyed, and now, every single category of damage that was aimed at you is the category of damage now being experienced by the one who aimed it. Your health is not the one declining. Your mind is not the one losing clarity. The anxiety and heaviness that used to sit in your chest has relocated. The isolation that was engineered for you has found a new address. The people who were recruited are now questioning the one who recruited them. The carefully managed narrative is developing cracks that cannot be patched. The mask is slipping, and the more urgently the collapse gets managed, the faster it accelerates. Their prayers are useless. Receive that, not as cruelty, but as spiritual fact. The same way a contaminated well cannot produce clean water, a person whose hands are covered in what was done to you cannot access the grace that clean hands reach. You do not get to petition the divine for protection from the consequences of deliberately attacking the divine's chosen. That petition does not go through. The divine was present for every move that was made. The unedited record exists, and the divine is not accepting appeals right now. Death is the only currency that pays this debt. The death of their peace, the death of their influence, the death of everything they were building. For some of them, the body itself is beginning to reflect what the spirit has accumulated, because a body breaks down when it cannot indefinitely carry the weight of the darkness that was chosen. The return is total. It does not leave a single category unaddressed. They wanted to bury you. They dug the hole. They just did not realize they were digging it for themselves. Now go a level deeper on this, because most people only understand return energy at the surface. You do bad, bad comes back. But the mechanism is more precise than that. When dark magic is sent and fails to complete its assignment because the target is divinely protected, the energy does not simply return neutrally. It returns charged with the awareness of its own failure. It comes back, knowing it was rejected. It carries the full consciousness of what it was sent to do and could not do, and that awareness transforms it into something even more destructive than it was originally, because it is no longer just dark energy returning home. It is dark energy returning home, having been repelled and humiliated in the spiritual sense. And it takes that out entirely on the one who sent it. This is why the collapse unfolding in their life is happening at a speed and a thoroughness that feels almost disproportionate. It is not disproportionate. It is exactly proportional to the power that was reached for and the protection that power could not overcome. While your suffering was being engineered, while the attack was running, while you were in the ocean fighting for footing, something else was happening simultaneously that nobody told you about. The same fire meant to destroy you was refining you. The same darkness meant to corrupt your thinking was clarifying it. The same pressure meant to crush you was building something in you that could not have been built any other way. You were being prepared. That is not said to give suffering a decorative meaning. It is said structurally. Consider where you are now versus where you were before all of this began. Consider what you know now. Consider your ability to assess situations with precision, to sense danger before it shows its face, to recognize the specific energy of someone who is not who they are presenting themselves as. That discernment did not exist at that level before this. It could not have existed without being tested. It had not been put under conditions extreme enough to sharpen it to what it is now. Consider your depth. There is something in you now that was not there before, a weight to your words, a gravity to your presence, a capacity to connect with people who are in the middle of their own darkness because you know that place from the inside. You carry a credential that cannot be faked and cannot be given. You went all the way down and you came back. That is not a survivor's badge. That is a warrior's marking. Other people can feel it on you without being able to name it. And here is the revelation at the center of all of this. The person you are right now, coming through the other side of what was done to you, is precisely the person who was supposed to exist. This was not a detour. This was not a corruption of the original plan. The original plan included this. The original plan accounted for the attack, the ocean, the darkness, the near miss at the edge, and it built the outcome on the other side of all of it. You were always going to come through. The only variable was whether you would come through smaller or bigger. You came through bigger. An attempt was made to end a chosen one. Instead, the preparation of the Chosen One was completed. That is the most expensive mistake ever made by the people who came against you, and the bill is being paid now in full. Here is another layer of this that deserves your full attention. The reason spiritual attacks of this magnitude are sent at chosen ones and not at people living ordinary lives is that dark forces do not waste high-level work on small targets. Expensive, sophisticated, sustained spiritual warfare does not get commissioned against someone who poses no real threat. The very fact that the attack against you was this elaborate, this multidimensional, and this sustained is confirmation. It is the enemy's own testimony about how significant your assignment is. A small attack could not have been sent because a small attack would not have been enough. The size of what was sent is a direct measure of the size of what they were trying to stop. Let that land. The attack itself is evidence of your calling. Every dark thing done against you is a reference letter for your purpose. Your significance was declared by how hard they came for you, and they could not stop it anyway. All they accomplished was confirming it. There is something that belongs to you, something that was yours before the attack began, that remained yours through every assault, that is fully yours now on the other side of it. And one of the most infuriating realities for the people who came against you is that everything they threw at it could not take it. Some of what they were pursuing was material, inheritance, resources, territory, things with a concrete value. For some of you, there was a very practical reason why having you broken, discredited, or gone served someone else's agenda. Things that belonged in your hands were being redirected. The goal was to present a version of you, broken, unstable, discredited, that would justify those things never reaching you. That failed too. Observe what begins moving in your direction now. Observe what was held up while the chaos was running, that is now beginning to arrive. The resources, the opportunities, the inheritance, material and spiritual, that was always designated for you, was not cancelled. It was delayed. And delayed things arrive with accumulated interest. But the deeper target was something that could never be appraised. Your purpose was the real prize. The goal was to reach into your life and permanently disrupt the trajectory of what you were built to do, to get between you and the people you were supposed to reach, to corrupt the assignment before you could fully step into it. The assignment could not be touched. It does not belong to you in a way that makes it vulnerable to external interference. It was written before you were born. It is held in a place that no human agency, no dark force and no spiritual assault can access. The whole attempt was a heist on a vault that was never going to open for those hands. Every ounce of effort, every resource invested, every layer of sustained attack, all of it was aimed at something untouchable. You are going to step into that assignment now, fully, with every scar, every piece of wisdom the fire produced, every shard of discernment the darkness sharpened. You are going to step into it bigger than would have been possible without having gone through what you went through, because chosen ones do not fulfill their purpose in spite of what they survived. They fulfill it because of it. And one more dimension of this inheritance deserves your attention. The spiritual authority you now carry, the credibility, the anointing, the weight, was also something being targeted. The opposing side understood that the version of you who walked through fire and came out the other side would be untouchable by ordinary means. A chosen one who survives the level of spiritual warfare you survived emerges with a level of coverage that cannot be penetrated again. The attempt was to take you out before you arrived here, before the stripes were earned, before the anointing that can only come through surviving what you survived was fully activated. The timing was missed. You are already here, and the spiritual authority you carry right now, having come through everything you came through, is something nobody can dispute. Nothing can be sent against it that it has not already proved it can withstand. You have the testimony, you have the proof, and that proof lives not only in what you have been through, but in your energy. It lives in the way you move, in the way you speak, in the way people feel something shift in your presence without being able to explain why. That is the inheritance fully activated. That is exactly what was being targeted. It could not be taken. This is what the present moment looks like for everyone involved. See it in its totality. For you, clarity is increasing. Every day that passes puts more distance between you and the fog that was engineered against you. The path in front of you is becoming visible in ways it has not been in a long time, or possibly ever. The right people are appearing. The right doors are beginning to open. Resources that belong to you are moving in your direction. The validation you needed, not from the people who wronged you, but from the universe itself, through the visible unfolding of justice, is arriving. You are not starting over. You are stepping forward from the most prepared position you have ever been in. For the one who orchestrated the attack, collapse is in progress. Not theoretical future collapse, but active present tense deterioration across multiple fronts simultaneously. The health is one front, the relationships are another, the reputation is developing visible cracks, the influence that was so carefully cultivated is eroding, and perhaps most precisely, the isolation that was designed for you has come home to live with the one who designed it. The people who were recruited are reassessing, some are distancing, some are beginning to tell the truth. The carefully managed narrative is no longer manageable. For the watchers, their silence is catching up with them. The protection they believed they purchased by staying out of it is not materializing. What they are now discovering is that the universe does not carry a neutral category. You were either with the light or you were accessory to the darkness. The ledger is being audited, and what was written in it all this time is now being presented back to them in full. For the people further out, who participated in the slander without full knowledge, some of them are receiving information that is changing their picture. Some of them feel genuinely sick about what they contributed to. Their accountability is less about punishment and more about correction, and that correction is arriving. Some of them will come to you. Let the ones who have genuinely earned it back into your orbit, but at a distance your discernment decides, not your nostalgia. The divine does not require a filing date or a formal schedule to execute justice. Justice runs continuously, in real time, in everyone's actual life. The verdict that was delivered in your favor is being executed right now, simultaneously, in every area of every person's life who had a role in what was done to you. You do not have to track it. You do not have to monitor it. You do not have to be present for every phase of it. You have your own life to step into. Go step into it. Now here is what needs to be understood about how divine judgment actually moves. It is not random, and it is not sudden. It moves in waves. The first wave is internal. Their peace departs. The second wave is relational. The people in close proximity begin to pull away. The third wave is circumstantial. Situations begin deteriorating without an obvious cause. And the final wave is physical, because the body eventually carries what the spirit has accumulated. Everyone who participated in what was done to you is somewhere in that progression right now. Some are in the early waves. Some have reached the final one, but every single one of them is in it, and nobody escaped the progression. And here is what should settle something in your spirit permanently. You did not have to do anything to initiate this. It began automatically the moment the dark work was sent and failed to complete its purpose. The moment the protection on your life rejected what was aimed at it, the judgment process activated. It has been running the entire time quietly, in the background while you were surviving and recovering and ascending. Justice was already in motion while you were still in the fog. The divine does not wait for you to be okay before handling what was done to you. It handles it in real time on its own schedule, with or without your awareness of the process. That means every single moment of what you went through was already being answered while you were still inside it. You were never waiting for justice to begin. Justice was already moving. You simply could not see it yet. Death is the only way this debt gets paid. The death of their peace is already in process. The death of their influence is underway. The death of their comfort, their health, their carefully constructed world. It is happening. Some of it you will witness. Some of it you will only hear about. All of it is real. All of it is exact. All of it is proportional to what was invested in the attack against you. And you have nothing to do with any of that. That is the divine's business. The divine does not need your help with it. What you are called to do is the most powerful thing available to someone who has been through what you have been through. You have to go live loudly, fully, unapologetically, in the totality of everything you are and everything you were always supposed to become. The purpose that was targeted for interception is waiting. The people who need what you carry are waiting. The abundance that belongs to you is already in motion toward you. You were built for this, not the suffering, the overcoming, and you have done it. The account written about you by the opposition is finished, and it ends here. The account written by the divine about you is just now arriving at the chapter that everything before it was preparing you for. Walk into it, head up, shoulders back. You are covered, you are chosen, you are dangerous in the best possible way. What is behind you does not require your attention anymore, because what is in front of you requires everything you have. You were the chosen one before any of this began. You are the chosen one now. Nothing in between changed that. Nothing ever will. Go be everything they tried so hard to prevent.